Friends, imagine you walk into a courtroom, heart pounding, palms sweating, and you realize everyone in the room is about to hear a letter that could change everything. What if that letter exposed a truth so raw, so unexpected, that the entire court goes silent? You won't believe what happened in that moment. The judge, known for firmness and poise, paused mid-sentence. The defendant opened an envelope, and the reading began. Silence filled the room. You feel it, an electric tension like the air itself holding its breath. Scenes of trembling voices, shifting feet, faces turning pale. What was in that letter? Why did it make the entire courtroom still as though time stopped? Friends, you're about to travel into that very moment. We'll take you inside the walls of a courthouse where emotions erupted, secrets shattered, and the unexpected turned someone's life upside down. You're going to ask, how did we get here? What did that defendant reveal? And what would you do if you were in that seat? Stay with us, because in just a few minutes you'll hear the details, and I promise you'll see it differently after. But before we dive deep, let me ask you, have you ever faced the moment when all masks drop and the truth stands exposed? Because in this courtroom, every mask fell, and the consequences changed everything. So lean in. Let your heart keep pace with the story, because the next hour or so will take you from calm to shock, from quiet to tears, and by the end, you'll understand why the letter mattered beyond the legal case. Are you ready? Let's go. In the heart of a courthouse that smelled of polished wood, fresh paper, and nervous anticipation, sat the judge, Frank Caprio. A man known for fairness, for lip-quiver moments that sometimes softened the stern gavel, but always someone who would listen. His courtroom runs like any other on the surface, lawyers in dark suits, the defendant seated in the center, family waiting in the gallery, reporters scribbling in the back. Yet this time it was different. The defendant, let's call him Alex, walked in with the weight of his world on his shoulders. Alex wasn't a hardened criminal. He was a young father, a son, someone whose life had twisted in unexpected ways. He had come into court that morning for what should have been a routine hearing. He shuffled papers. He clenched his jaw. He avoided eye contact. His lawyer whispered something. The judge nodded. They had already done the procedural stuff. But then Alex asked to speak. He said he had a letter, something he wrote between days of regret and nights of reflection. He said the letter held everything he couldn't say aloud, his apology, his reason, his hidden truth. The lawyers exchanged glances. The judge paused. The courtroom shifted. Up until now, these hearings had been legal, procedural, factual. But this letter promised something beyond facts. It promised human truth. You might ask, why would a defendant ask to read something personal in court? Would the judge allow it? Would the judge pause the legal process to hear a story? In this case, yes. You see, Judge Caprio has a reputation not only for upholding justice, but sometimes for allowing the human side of cases to breathe. He believes that behind every case is a person. Behind every person is a story. And so Alex asked, "May I share this letter with the court?" The judge looked up from his bench. The gallery felt a hush. The bailiff passed the envelope. Lawyers sat back. Everyone leaned in. And here begins the part you'll want to hold your breath for. Because the letter wasn't just a note, it was a confession, unpacking of hidden regret, and a plea for redemption. But wait, there's more. Before the reading, let me set the scene. Alex's hands trembled. He placed the letter on the lectern. His eyes flickered to his wife and young daughter in the gallery. The judge watched. The prosecutor adjusted his papers, and the public gallery settled into silence. What came next would change how they saw Alex, how they saw him in the dock, and maybe how we believe in redemption. So stay with me. The bailiff nodded. Alex cleared his throat. He opened the envelope, white paper inside, pen-written words. The judge leaned forward slightly, eyebrows raised. The courtroom lights seemed to dim in that moment, not literally, but emotionally, because this wasn't just about law anymore. This was about a man unmasking himself. Beginning his letter, Alex wrote, "Your Honor, I stand before you, not just as a defendant, but as a father, a husband, a broken man who made a terrible decision." The courtroom stirred, the prosecutor shifted, the judge maintained his quiet gaze. He let him continue. 3 nights ago, the letter read, "I lay awake thinking of the moment I crossed the line,
thinking of the child I promised to protect, thinking of the parents who raised me to know right from wrong. Why was he telling this in court? What decision? What line did he cross? That question hung heavy. Alex took a breath and wrote about the incident that brought him before the court, a moment of desperation, bad company, and the wrong turn. He wrote how he tried to hide it, how regret hunted him. Suddenly, we realized that this letter wasn't a simple apology. It was a revelation. He acknowledged he stole something valuable, not just items, but trust. He confessed to wronging his employer, to making choices while his young daughter waited at home. The room felt colder. The judge's pen hovered over the bench, the gallery paused. People held on to each sentence. Then came the secret. The letter revealed that on the night of the offense, he had received a phone call he wasn't meant to answer, a family crisis he ignored, and his mind raced. He described the moment he slipped, the alarm, the regret, the fear, and he wrote, "I woke up the next morning realizing not only did I hurt my employer, but I hurt myself, and I hurt the child who believed I was her hero." The courtroom exhaled. The letter's words broke something inside. The guard's footsteps muffled. The judge's face softened. The lawyer wiped his brow. And then Alex wrote about something even deeper. He revealed that he had lied on his job application, hidden the family crisis, told his wife he had accepted extra hours when he was on the phone drenched in guilt. He admitted to trying to cover it up. The judge closed his eyes for a fraction of a second.
The prosecutor's face changed from professional detachment to human concern. You might ask, why would the court let him read all of this? Because the judge allowed the human voice to be heard. Because sometimes law isn't just about crime, it's about people. And this letter became something else, a window into the wreckage of one life. But hold on, there's another twist. Mid-letter, Alex wrote about seeing his daughter's face in a photograph the morning after the incident. He said she asked him, "Daddy, did you lose?" He couldn't answer. The photograph sat on his desk at home. The letter read, "She believed I was the man she told her friends about. That Sunday morning she asked to go to the park. I said no. I stayed home to hide the shame." The court gasped inwardly. His wife, just a few seats away, blinked back tears. We begin to ask, was this just a crime, or was this a tragedy of a life unraveling? The prosecutor cleared his throat. The judge raised his hand ever so slightly, and then the letter's final part began. Alex wrote, "Your Honor, I present this letter not to excuse what I did, because I know nothing excuses it. I present it to confess, to own the damage, and to ask for a chance to rebuild, not just for me, but for my daughter, so she can remember me as the father who tried to fix his mistakes." The courtroom held its breath. In that moment, we realize the secret isn't simply what he did, it's why he did it, and how the consequences rippled outward. We watch the judge's gavel unclicked. We see the lawyer lean forward. We hear a child cough in the gallery. That cough echoes like thunder, and the tension thickens. So many questions remain. Will the court accept this human dimension? Will the law allow room for redemption? Has the defendant's humanity changed how the judge will decide? Don't go anywhere, because what happens next is where the emotional shock intensifies.
Friends, today we witnessed more than a courtroom proceeding. We witnessed vulnerability, regret, and a daring decision to speak truth in a place of judgment. The letter that caused silence wasn't a plea for mercy, it was a mirror held up to a man's heart. And the judge didn't just pass sentence, he offered a chance for rebuilding, for reconciliation, for hope. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs to hear that redemption is possible. Tell us in the comments, have you ever faced a moment when you wrote a letter you couldn't read aloud? Have you ever asked for forgiveness when the outcome was uncertain? Because the bravery to say I was wrong is often the hardest step. If you're new here, subscribe and turn on notifications, because next time we look in on Alex, we'll check the programs, the service, the failures and successes. We'll see whether redemption is a destination or a journey. And we'll ask, when the court leaves, when the cameras go, How does real life play out? For now, remember this: a single moment of honesty can shift a life. The law may punish, but the human heart can redeem. If you found hope today, hit like. If you believe in second chances, type hope in the comments. And if you're willing to watch someone change, stay with us for the next episode. Because the story of Alex is far from over, and you'll want to see what happens when the courtroom ends, but life begins. Thank you for being here. Thank you for witnessing the letter that silenced a court. I'll see you soon. Take care. Stay strong. Remember, it's never too late to rewrite your story. Weeks passed. The courthouse that once echoed with silence now buzzed again with routine hearings, the rhythm of justice resuming as usual. Yet somewhere in the background of those proceedings lingered the story of Alex, the man whose letter turned a courtroom into a chapel of reflection. But what happened next? Did he live up to the promise he made that morning? Friends, you're about to find out, because redemption, as Judge Caprio said, isn't written in a single moment. It's earned, step by step, choice by choice. A month later, the probation reports began arriving at the courthouse. Alex had completed his first round of community service. Instead of hiding from the world, he swept city streets, repaired park benches, and volunteered at the same youth center where he once dropped off his daughter before work. People recognized him, whispered, sometimes judged, but he didn't run. He showed up early, left late, and every night wrote a few more lines in a new notebook. He called it My Ongoing Letter. He wrote, Day 12. I saw a kid picking up trash beside me. He asked if I was the guy from the courthouse. I told him yes. He said, You're trying again, right? I said, Every day. When the judge read those progress notes, a faint smile formed on his face. He showed them to his clerk. This is why we listen, he said softly. The clerk nodded. Most people forget the story once the verdict is done. The judge replied, That's the difference between a sentence and a second chance. But life, friends, doesn't hand redemption without testing it. Midway through his probation, Alex lost his job. His old employer couldn't rehire him despite the court's leniency. The bills piled up. His wife picked up extra shifts. The temptation to give up returned. That's when he attended his first restorative justice meeting. A small room, metal chairs, bright lights. Across from him sat the very manager he'd wronged. Their eyes met for the first time since the trial. The air thickened with memory and shame. The facilitator said, We're not here to punish, we're here to understand. Alex swallowed hard. He said, I can't change what I did, but I can carry the weight differently now. The manager stayed silent, then finally replied, Then start by not running from it. It was a small sentence, but it cracked open the possibility of forgiveness. By the 6th month, the letter that once caused silence became something else. It became movement. People in the community began calling it the letter that saved a family. News outlets replayed the clip. Comments poured in online. Some called the judge too soft. Others said it was the purest moment of justice they'd seen. But the most powerful comments came from ordinary people. That letter made me call my dad again. I stopped judging people in court videos. Sometimes a single truth changes more than a verdict. And yes, Alex's daughter started going back to the park with him. One evening she said, Daddy, you're still my hero. He knelt down and said, No, sweetheart, I'm just someone who's trying. And she smiled. That's what a hero does. Friends, when Judge Caprio read that progress letter aloud 6 months later, the courtroom didn't just listen, they stood. For once, applause echoed where silence once reigned. The judge raised his hand, humbled, not triumphant. He said, This is what justice looks like when a man refuses to stay fallen. The gavel struck again, not as an end, but as a continuation. Because the story of Alex and others like him reminds us that redemption aren't miracles, they're earned through ordinary acts of courage. Before we go, I want you to think of someone who needs to hear this, maybe a friend who's struggling, maybe yourself wondering if change is worth the effort.
Share this story with them, because what began as a confession became a living proof that grace still exists in the world. Tell us in the comments, do you believe people can truly change, or do you think some mistakes never fade? Your voice matters here. It keeps these stories alive. And if you're willing to watch someone change, stay with us for the next episode, because the story of Alex is far from over, and you'll want to see what happens when the courtroom ends, but life begins. Thank you for being here. Thank you for witnessing the letter that silenced a court. I'll see you soon. Take care. Stay strong. Remember, it's never too late to rewrite your story.